Good morning. Looks like my mic is operational, so that's nice. Welcome to Spilling COVFEFE. I'm your host, your Heavenly Father. It's a Sunday morning. It's early. We had a big charity drive last night. We raised some money for booksandbricks.org. Not, as I found out after the broadcast, not booksandbricks.com at all. Don't donate there, please. So I also discovered this morning that if you put an address for PayPal up on the top of the screen, you can use YouTube to blur it out after the fact, but it takes several hours, I think, maybe more. Good morning, Marcy. Good morning, Andy. Good morning, Jojo. Jojo, you're up too early. Go back to sleep. Marcy doesn't sleep. Don't tell Marcy to go back to sleep. Marcy did a wonderful job with the charity last night. Andy slept through the whole thing just because he's on the other side of the planet. Come on. Andy, you're on Africa time. This is when you should be awake, as far as I'm concerned. Got an angry note from a young lady who lives in North Kakalaki this morning that she woke up early because someone told her 6 a.m. I mean, I don't know why someone would have a charity event at 6 a.m. It's not a fun run. I guess it makes sense. I mean, it was a charity. We raised money for Kenya. If you're interested, go to booksandbricks.org. You guys all know about that. Good morning, Stephanie. Stephanie's awake. Stephanie doesn't sleep either. Well, there's medical reasons for that. The rest of you, I don't understand why anybody's awake right now. Let's jump right into. Well, you know what? This is Spilling COVFEFE. What we do here, kids, is we just talk. We have some COVFEFE. We spill it. That's not my official COVFEFE mug. That was just the mug that I grabbed this morning. I didn't even turn on the light when I just made the coffee. There's enough lightness outside that I felt confident that I wouldn't break anything, so I just grabbed the mug that was closest to the front of the cupboard. So last night we raised a bunch of money for kids in Africa. When we ended the broadcast, we'd raised $25,000, which is mind-boggling to me. And that you can buy a country in Africa for $25,000, so that's really a wonderful amount of money. And then I guess donations kept coming in. If you did somehow manage to donate to the address that was at the top of the screen that doesn't exist because I put .com instead of .org, like a dummy, I want to know if you were able to do that, because people were saying it doesn't work, and I was like, well, I don't know why, just because it's the wrong address. Now, in my defense, there were a lot of things happening at the same time last night. Also, I'm not bright. So, I will die on that sword. It's not the expression. Let's check in with Maria Barter. See, you know, I have this little coffee heater thing. This was actually a gift, a donation from Jojo. This is a Mr. Coffee pad, and you can turn it on, which I didn't do. See, now it gets hot, and it's supposed to keep your coffee hot. I don't know that it actually does. It does warm up. I don't know that it actually keeps the coffee hot. This mug is just slightly too wide, so I don't know if it's going to have any effect whatsoever. It's just a little bit too wide for that pad. If nothing else, it's a lovely placebo in the morning. The whole point is that I drink the coffee before it gets too cold. And then that shortens the broadcast because coffee gets things rolling in the morning, if you know what I mean. And you do. Stephanie says, Jojo, did your house sell? If so, how long is your escrow? I'll let Jojo answer that because it ain't my house. Is there sort of a code connecting donations to you, Kevin? I'm not completely sure. Oh, I see what you're saying, Andy. I do. If you do go to booksandbricks.org, Andy, on there, if you go donate, either PayPal or regular donations, you can, in there, choose the Donna Riley Williams Memorial Fund. That's not me. That's my mother. Or that was my mother. Still is my mother, technically. She's passed away, but that's her memorial fund. So whatever you choose to donate by, if you have some difficulty with it, if you can't find the Donna Riley Williams Memorial Fund, just donate to whatever fund. It all goes to Kenya or Cuba, depending on, what kind of an idiot would say that the money's going to Cuba? Probably the same kind of idiot that would put the wrong email address at the top of the screen. I ruin everything. Just wait. It'll happen. I've already ruined today's broadcast. Let's check in with our friend Maria Bartichiroma with the audio hiss in her broadcast because she's been broadcasting at home for months now. Is she even there today? Yeah, that's her. Everybody loves her voice. Let's go ahead. Oh, let's see what she's covering here. Okay. Okay, so that doesn't go to you guys. I have to change that. All the settings are wacky because of the charity last night. Let's see if that works.
And they want to pass it this week.
Okay, yeah, you're holding up a bunch of paper. Why are you wasting that paper? First off, that paper doesn't really exist because the bill is not complete yet. And yeah, that's 3.5 trillion over 10 years. Tremendous amount of money, but it's 350 billion a year for all kinds of amazing programs that we've been talking about. Hey, why don't we do that for decades?
How many Democrats do you think have read this? Think Nancy Pelosi's read it? Think Chuck Schumer's read it?
It's not a thing. It's just a bunch of blank paper beneath what you've got there.
Do you think Joe Biden...
These are proposals as well. The bills get written and rewritten and rewritten. Then they get voted on by the House or the Senate first, and then they go to the other chamber and they vote on them. Then they have something called conference, which is why years ago Nancy Pelosi said in order to find out what's in it, we got to pass it. That's true. On major bills like this, the House votes, the Senate votes, and then they come together. They have different packages. They come together and they decide, the leaders of the parties, the staff members, etc., they come together and they decide, here's what goes in the final bill. That's how major bills work. It's called conference. There's what Nancy Pelosi said years ago that people, we won't find out what's in it until, no. She was completely accurate. And almost everybody who says that on a broadcast should know better. I was watching Bill Maher last night. Big Bill Maher fan. I believe that Bill used to be absolutely amazing at, here's a point. Well, the guest has a counterpoint. But here and here and here and here is why you're exactly wrong about that. Bill used to really know his stuff. I was listening to Friday's broadcast this morning. Granted, while I was half asleep trying to go back to sleep. Doesn't seem to be that into doing the research anymore. And ironically, that phrase "doing your research" has come to be something we make fun of. But there's basic things like, yeah, there was collusion with Russia, but Mueller didn't investigate collusion, and it says so on page 2. And no, conspiracy wasn't proven because on page 10, it's written right there, the Trump campaign deleted emails and used encrypted apps and pled the fifth. Now, Bill did come up with, hey, here's the Senate committee, which is led by Republicans. The Intel committee said that it was an absolute, he cooperated with the Russians and blah, 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 blah. And he had that. But he was saying things like, we don't really know about ivermectin. But he said the study out of Brazil didn't show that it worked or didn't work. But we don't know that it didn't work. Yes, we do. What about just read the analysis of it in Nature? Not Nature, the actual where we all live, but Nature, the journal, that said, oh, hey, wait a minute. These numbers are all fake. Not the Brazilian study, but the study led by the Egyptian doctor. Anyway, like when there's going to be a big question like that, look it up, Bill. That's all I'm saying. Again, big fan. Always a big... People have been ragging on Bill Maher for a while now. I think it sort of all started a year ago, 2 years ago, whatever it was, when he said, hey, can we finally address the problem of obesity in America? And and this is before COVID. before it became the primary reason that you're going to die of COVID is obesity. That being said, hundreds of thousands of people who are not obese have died from COVID. It's just one of many factors, including breathing, that could lead to your death. But people got really upset about that because you're not allowed to fat shame anybody. Speaking of fat shaming, I ate an entire frozen pizza last night. 5 eggs! You know what? That's a Hal Sparks thing. I'm not really sure where it came from, but Andy said it in the chat room, and Stephanie. Everybody's a big fan of 5 eggs now, so good work, everybody. I believe Hal Sparks is probably broadcasting right now. Hal is on the air 24/7 at this point. So if you want to check out and go watch Hal, you're more than welcome to do that. Let's see what's going on here.
Who's desperately begging Democrats to pass it? You think he's read it? You think he knows what's in it?
Oh, good. Marsha Blackburn's coming up. She's a delight and always completely incorrect. Who else is coming up?
Coming up, Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn on.
Yeah, we saw that.
Government open. We have to do those imminently, more imminently even, to address the full Obama agenda.
Oh, yeah. So Pelosi called it the Obama agenda instead of the Biden agenda. Everyone has done that. But yeah.
Building back better with, and I love to say, building back better with women. So that's where we are.
I called Kenya Cuba. But yeah.
She's not getting the Obama agenda just
Scalise is mildly entertaining, usually wrong.
yet. Just ahead, GOP whip Steve Scalise on the economic agenda. The
Okay.
60 military jets into Taiwan's air defense base.
This is news. Hold
New
on.
migrants making their way to the southern border right now. Then the Chinese Communist Party bullying is on display as the CCP flies an additional 60 military jets into Taiwan's air defense base this weekend, capitalizing on America asleep at the wheel.
I don't think that looks like the celebration, the 71st anniversary of the Chinese Communist Revolution. See how they're in the shape of 71? I don't know if that's footage of Chinese airplanes in Taiwanese airspace right now. I'm not entirely sure of that. Typically, on a news broadcast, they're going to have file or something up in the corner so you know this didn't happen yesterday. This is not footage of an invasion. The Chinese are not invading Taiwan in the shape of a 71. I don't know if this is actual footage of that or not because there's no dates on here. I guess that's on me. I don't know why you would. Perhaps 71 in Mandarin is the figure for we're invading you. I don't know.
Former Pentagon chief of...
Again, they're not giving us the information we need, which is what this show does. Not my show. This is what Maria Bartiromo's show does.
Staff Kash Patel connects the dots on the big lie of Russia collusion and why those who abused power are now in power. Will Special Counsel John Durham reel in any big fish in the coming weeks?
Oh, holy smokes. That's Kash Patel. That's one of the Trump, we'll call him an appointee, who is involved in all of it at the end, stuck it out to the very end, and is still a huge supporter of Trump.
Plus,
and it has been subpoenaed. Former Pentagon Chief of Staff, by the way.
The culture wars.
I believe Trump was trying to get him to replace Defense Sec. It's hard to say because we don't really know what was happening there. And if any of the books that have come out recently, including one by Stephanie Grisham, who was press sec-ish for a minute, if any of those books are to be believed, it was a complete cluster F the entire time.
I find myself in awe, gobsmacked, flabbergasted and startled by these revelations.
Okay.
Comedian Russell Brand and rapper Nicki Minaj react to the dirty trick.
Oh. Have they gone full ivermectin or vaccine or whatever here too? Let's find out.
On the power grabs. Is the left finally waking up to the abuses and the failed policies of the Democrat machine? Christian Walker and conservative publisher Louise Burke on cancel culture on the left and corruption in Washington.
I don't care.
Washington. All that right here, right
I mean, I do care. I've been canceled technically. I'm still demonetized on YouTube.
now.
This is a reaction video. This is completely allowed by YouTube rules and regulations. I even just said cluster F instead of clusterfuck so that I didn't swear during the broadcast. Wait.
On Sunday Morning Futures.
Yeah. Okay, so who we got? Okay, moving forward. Here we go. Steve Scalise. Let's see what he has to say.
Yeah, you saw.
You know what? I don't know that I can do this morning. Let's go start off with Fox and Friends instead. We'll hold on this. We'll come back to it if we have to. We might watch Blackburn, but Scalise is just gonna get in under my craw, if that means anything. Oh, Fox News Sunday is already out. Oh, good. Usually has a couple of good guests on that. 39 Chinese military planes encroached Taiwan airspace. Well, what we saw there on the footage was not that. But yeah, they're going to creep over, and there's really nothing the United States can do about it, and they're simply reacting to the deal that we just made with Australia, giving them nuclear-powered subs in order to maintain control of the South China Sea, etc., because the Chinese are building their own island there in order to control the naval space south of China. So there you have it.
That shot, it probably would have been.
Kane.
Totally did not think about that, but
It's solidarity.
you need all.
What? Okay.
It's just
More-
slightly
yeah.
below the American flag.
Of course.
You know what he did arrange today? He arranged to wear his purple tie for the Minnesota Vikings
Totally
on
didn't
this
think about
Sunday. Thank you, Will Kane.
Totally
I
did not
appreciate
think
it.
about that, but
It's solidarity.
you need all the support you can get.
We do.
Look, they're all back sitting together now. Remember how they used to be spaced apart by 6 feet or whatever, which was just a random... It doesn't matter. The 6 foot thing has never mattered, by the way.
After last week.
And that's why the U.S. has done so much more poorly than all the other rest of the world, because everybody else is 2 meters. Andy knows this. If you live anywhere else on the planet, you're metric. Except the frickin' United States with our stupid gallons and our stupid feet. 6 feet is not as long as 2 meters. And that's why the rest of the world has solved COVID. That extra 4.5 inches between 6 feet and 2 meters, that's where COVID drops off. It hits that zone and then just down to...
We're looking good.
Actually, it floats away. It goes up in the air because of heat and inversion layers, and that's where you know what? I'm only kidding about all of this. I am not spreading false COVID information, just so you know. The 6 feet or 2 meters does make a difference either way. These are just arbitrary measurements.
Yeah.
We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
It's good.
As we know from a study in Taiwan, COVID can affect somebody 20 feet away. This is not even the Delta variant. COVID can affect somebody 20 feet away in a 5-minute span. Not 15 minutes of exposure, not 6 feet. Now with Delta, it can be immediate. It's a few seconds. It's 1,000 times as many viral particles as the original variant. So basically, everybody on the planet who hasn't been vaccinated is going to get it at some point. This is what the supposition is. I don't think that's the case, because you can't ever use generalizations when it comes to medical science, except that we're all going to die.
To be back.
Well,
Okay, hold on. Now let's find out what we're outraged by today.
speaking of, I don't know. I don't have a good.
By the way, this has gotten very little airplay. Merck now has a pill that can be used to treat COVID. Once you are diagnosed, you start taking these pills. They're an antiviral. The coronavirus is a virus. It's right in there. So you take the antiviral, 2 pills a day for 5 days, and it reduces your chance of hospitalization among... There was a study of 700 patients, okay? And these are high-risk patients. It reduced the admittance to the hospital by half. So it's a 50% reduction, which is awesome. Out of those 700 patients, the ones who didn't receive the medication, the placebo, so the control group, 7 or 8 of them died. I've seen 2 different reports. Terrible, right? And that goes right along with the 1% death rate. So let's just say 7 out of 700. I believe it was 8. But again, I saw 2 different chyrons, and somebody made a typo. 7 or 8. From those who took the pill, nobody died. Now, that's not going to hold true once you get into a massive scale. There are going to be complications that the pill is just not going to handle or whatever. But if that's the case, that is a game changer. Because pills are easy and cheap to produce, and they can go worldwide. And the vaccine, unfortunately, reaches hesitancy from people that don't have COVID. Well, I don't need the vaccine. I'm not going to kick. I'll just stay away from people. I'll just stay 6 feet and or 2 meters away from people. I'm fine. But once you're actually diagnosed, suddenly people want the vaccine. When it's a choice of, hey, do you want this vent? Or do you want to die? Can I just get the vaccine? People change their minds. So this pill from Merck could be an absolute game changer. I hope that it is. So far, one study done by Merck seems to indicate that it will be. Things change, but certainly we can hope. Why not?
Transition. Let's just talk about Joe Biden. All right.
How about building back better?
How about building back worse? Then we can go there. So we
can't build back worse.
All this week we covered the fact that the Democrats planned to deliver on both the reconciliation bill and the so-called bipartisan infrastructure bill.
Yeah.
They wanted it.
Well, no, the Democrats, the party itself, wanted to deliver first just the infrastructure bill, just the $1.2 trillion, just that, the roads and bridges and broadband for people who don't have broadband. Like, what? So we have to pay for your high-speed internet so you can watch Netflix when you live in the middle of bumfuck Egypt. And yet, no, we can't have childcare so we can go to work. That's the thinking there. Super important that everybody have high-speed internet, which I get. That is important. But that is a priority for Republicans because it's for the rural folks. Meanwhile, anything that the urban folks might partake in, because in order to live in an urban area, most parents have to work 2 jobs. Hey, child tax credit, how about that? We don't need that in the rural areas because our mortgage is like $1,000 a month. You still do, by the way. It's just the hypocrisy of this matters, but this doesn't matter.
Monday they wanted it, Thursday they wanted it, Friday they didn't get it. Everyone's been attempting to ask Joe Biden questions to include his...
It's, by the way, it's the progressive wing and also the Democrats in general who want to have the $3.5 trillion package, but Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, 2 senators that they need both votes in order to pass it in the Senate, they're like, it's too much.
Own caucus.
So it'll be resolved. We'll meet in the middle. I don't know, 2.2 trillion or something. We'll get to that point eventually. But until then, people are going to talk about it and they're going to mock the Democrats and then it'll pass and then, oh, okay, moving on. And then it'll be another outrage. The bridge at the border has been cleared out. But what are we going to see? We're going to see footage of people coming up to the border, the caravans, and the world's going to end and we won't have a country anymore and all this. It's outrage. And then that'll be fixed. By the way, we really need people. We need new people in this country. Americans are leaving the low-wage jobs. The middle-income jobs and the upper-income jobs, those are on a nice trajectory going upwards. We are gaining jobs in those sectors. But in low-wage, Americans have realized, like, I'm just not going to put up with this crap anymore. When I can't even have a $15 minimum wage, these are not $15 jobs, by the way. At some companies, they are. These are, in many states, there are jobs that pay less than $15 an hour. And Americans are like, I'm not going to work for that anymore. Guess what? I've gotten used over the past 18, 19, 20 months to not doing anything. I'll stay home and be entertained at home. I will watch my Netflix, and that's going to cost me, $15 a month. I'm not going to go out partying. I'm not going to do this and that. Now, some Americans are right back at it. But a lot of Americans have curtailed their spending habits.
And he refused to take questions from his own caucus. Well, on his way to vacation...
Oh, and you can't say, by the way, that Joe Biden's paying people to stay home because the $300 extra a week for unemployment, it's gone now. I'm not getting unemployment anymore. The the PUA, Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, I think it was, whatever PUA stands for, that's gone. All those people that were the gig economy, etc., contractors, they're not getting any more money, which some of the southern states, 20 different Republican states, said, hey, let's stop that. Actually, no, it was closer. It was half the states. I think it was 24, 25 states. Said, hey, we're ending all of those extra benefits. We're going to end them early because people don't want to work. Well, guess what? In those states, job growth actually slowed compared to the states that continued to support those who needed it most. And when I say those, I mean Americans. So stupid. Every time you hurt the little guy, it ends up biting you in the ass. Every time. But here's the thing. People are outraged by it at the time, and then when the facts are actually revealed 2 months down the line, no one pays any attention. And again, the child tax credit is in play right now. Almost every American who has a kid under 18 is receiving $250 a month, $500 a month for 2 kids. If you got a kid under 6, you're getting $300 for that kid. You got 3 kids under 6, you're getting $900 a month. Oh, but gas is 20 cents more expensive. Outrage leads the news. Dirty laundry.
Yesterday in Delaware, he managed to blurt out a few words to the press there. Remember when Donald Trump used to stand there for, 30, 40, 50 minutes?
I don't. I remember Helicopter News, and it was never 30, 40 minutes.
Questions from everybody. He blurted out.
No, he would not take questions from everybody. Every single time Trump walked away, he was getting questions yelled at him because he didn't go through the audience and take all the questions for 30 and 40 minutes. That's complete nonsense.
A few things about his commitment to build back better and get his socialist spending plan passed. Here's a portion of what he said.
Not a socialist spending plan. It's an American plan.
Everybody's frustrated. It's part of being in government. Being frustrated.
That is true.
Hey, look, one of the things I love about you guys, I watch you today. Biden vowed he's going to do this. Biden's going to work like hell to make sure we get both these passed. Now,
whoa, he just referred to himself in the third person. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. That's a Trumpy thing to do.
I think we will get them passed.
Do you think by Thanksgiving, sir? Do you think this could be all done by Thanksgiving?
Why are we setting a deadline? We have until the midterms next year to get this passed. We will work it out. We will get the numbers right. We will compromise because that's how government works. And we will pass these bills. But why Thanksgiving?
I think it'll be done by 2:27 a.m. on December. Come on. I think.
I love Joe Biden. 2:27 a.m. on December. Come on, man. That's awesome.
He's going to work like hell to make sure we get both these passed. And I think we will get.
I don't know if anyone's even watching anymore. Are we? I'm just enjoying this myself. We'll do a few more minutes of this and we'll wrap it up.
Them passed.
Do you think by Thanksgiving, sir? Do you think this could be all done by Thanksgiving?
I think it'll be done by 2:27 a.m. on December. Come on. I think it will get done. Plenty of time for it to be part of changing the tax code for people next year.
It's so interesting because if you talk to people like my husband who was in Congress when President Obama was in, when Joe Biden was vice president, he was the guy that they would send to the Hill, to Capitol Hill, to close deals. He was great at this. And you see, he couldn't get it done here. And I think the reason...
But we're not done. You're dealing with your own artificial deadlines. He just made fun of that aspect of it. They don't understand sardonic humor at all. Andy's still with me. Of course, it's like the middle of the day where Andy is. He's awake. You know what I want is I want whatever Andy gets at his German bakery. Remember sometimes he'll be like, I don't know. Oh, yeah, if you ever join us for our Friday night movies, if we go long enough, sometimes Andy will join us in the morning from Germany, And he'll take us on a tour of southern Germany, wherever he is, and he goes to this bakery, and things just look delish.
Was actually really well synthesized by Michael Goodwin in the New York Post. He says the president is a weak, befuddled president, to what you said earlier, Pete. He is the emptiest of empty suits, all talk, no conviction, couldn't stand up to the Taliban, couldn't stand up to the wingnuts in his own party.
No. He stood up for what he said he was going to do. We're getting the hell out of Afghanistan, and that's what we've done. We're done. We're not in Afghanistan anymore. He did exactly what he promised to do that Trump couldn't do. Remember, Trump didn't stand up to the Taliban. He gave them 5,000 prisoners and said, "We'll leave. Sorry to bother you. Just give us a few months. We'll get out of your face. And then you can take over the country." Right? Is that good with you, Afghan government? Oh, you know what? I didn't even invite the Afghan government to the table. They're not here.
What a disaster. And it is, because, he's had such a bad couple months. Well, this could have actually, listen, I don't think we needed this bill. I don't think we needed either of these bills.
Oh, yeah, we don't need infrastructure because we had all those infrastructure weeks under Trump that were so successful. We don't have bridges that are falling down. We don't have rails that are cracked. We're good.
I'm against all of it. But this...
Why? Why are you against fixing America? Why do you hate this country so much?
Could have made him look like he was, bipartisan, moving forward, doing something good, and he couldn't even do that.
I've been thinking about this. Did you get what you paid for? If you think about how many moderates or independents might have voted in the last presidential election, think about what was sold and what you actually got. What was sold was...
We're not done. Think about the gifts that you received for Christmas this Thanksgiving.
Moderate presidential candidate in Joe Biden, who had a history of deal-making, to your point, especially in the Senate, who was supposed to bring adults back into the room. That was what was essentially...
And unity.
And unity, exactly right. And that's the billboard outside the store that you went into to buy something. Now, think about what you actually got. You got, I do think it's fair to say, a somewhat befuddled, clearly not a deal maker, clearly not somebody who's a unifier, can't even unify the Democratic Party.
He's not befuddled at all. He's cracking jokes about it. He's being ironic. He knows what's going on. Give me a second here. I want to show an example. I don't even remember what this is about, but I do want to show it. Give me a second here. And... Yeah. Okay, so this is from Asen. I'll bring it over so you guys can see too. This is the President of the United States, Joe Biden, holding up his hands and saying, "Just fucking relax, people." Calm down. Whoa. People. And we can't see the throng of reporters, but there's a throng, a tranche of reporters. And then in the background, you have Nancy Pelosi going, "Nom nom 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 nom."
Different questions, and they're all legit. I'm telling you, we're going to get this done. It doesn't matter when.
It doesn't matter when. Realistically, to get it into next year's tax code, you got to get it done by Christmas. And if you don't, you'll get it into the following year's tax code.
It doesn't matter whether it's in 6 minutes, 6 days, or 6 weeks. We're going to get it done.
Why is it so challenging to...
Yeah. So just calm the F down, everybody. See, YouTube, if you're watching that part, I didn't say fuck. So that's good. Not harmful. Give me my money. So that was from our friend Asen. Thank you, Asen, for capturing moments like that.
And critics who might have said he was an empty vessel ready to be pulled or filled in whatever direction whoever had the most juice could do so.
That's not an empty vessel that comes out to the press and says, "Calm the fuck down. We'll get it passed. It's gonna take some time. This is how the sausage is made." The press is all like, "But what about vegans?" By the way, Kevin Lee's daughter is a vegan herself by choice. I don't know where I went wrong. I blame her mother. Anyway, I guess the new Beyond Burger sausage is really good. So she highly recommends the new Beyond Burgers sausage. It changes color when you cook it, and she likes that. I don't. But I like Beyond Meat.
Seeing is who has the most juice. The progressive win.
You know what, Beyond Meat, if you're watching this, less salt, please. I will eat Beyond Meat on a daily basis. I love it. It tastes delicious. It doesn't taste like meat, but it has its own thing going on, and it's quite good. Probably because it has so much salt. What I'm saying is like half the salt, and I'm good.
Of the Democratic Party. And the empty vessel that is Joe Biden is being pulled in that direction. He's not the deal maker.
Why would a vessel be pulled? You know, you fill vessels. Come on, man. Talk about your mixed metaphor. They're pulling the cup. See, this is Joe Biden. He's a vessel, and what's happening is he's being pulled. And that's, see what happens? He's being placed on a heater that may or may not work. The bottom of the cup is quite warm at this point. Thanks to JoJo for her donation of the Mr. Coffee cup warmer. I think it's, yeah, so it's warm up to about here. And I have about this much coffee in there. So it's actually, the cup itself, the mug is warm, higher than the coffee level, and the coffee's quite warm. So I'm going to say, yes, this works. Thanks, Mr. Coffee. And thank you, Mr. JoJo.
He's not the moderate. He was the empty vessel.
You're right. You don't go to Capitol Hill unless you think.
Again, that's nothing to do with the empty
think there's
vessel.
a deal to be closed. And he didn't close it when he was there. Another Michael Wall.
Okay, because there are people who insist that changes need to be made. So the compromise will be, like, what? How? We've come 250 years as a country in order to get to this point, but you got to do it tomorrow.
Who's in Congress, summed it up. He said, hey, I didn't fight for my country so that we could be...
Yeah, military service. I didn't go to military school, country service, in order to have broadband.
Become socialist.
Thank you for your service, blah, blah, blah.
Watch.
I didn't almost die for this country twice to have my children growing up in a country led by socialists or a world led by Chinese communists. But that's exactly the road that we're on right now. And
because we're going to just join China as part of one of the provinces? Is that?
And what I think you're going to see play out over the next month.
We will not, whatever he's about to say, we will not see that played out over the next month. Let's find out what it is.
Is that they're going to go for the policies. They know if they get the program.
You're just going to cut it there so we don't know what we want to know what's going to happen over the next month because he was a soldier. So he knows.
Programs in place and they can redefine the country. At the end of the day, Judge, as you said,
it's like 8 words, moving on.
Problem with socialism is eventually you run out of other people's money.
That's right.
Margaret Thatcher.
This is America. We do not care about running out of money.
Famously said that, but that is the tragic road that we're on until we can get the House back.
It is. The top line number doesn't really matter. Forget about 3.5, 2.1, 1.9.
It's 8 trillion.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter what the number is. It's getting the clutches in a new dependency class hooked on government, which they think will benefit them.
Absolutely. And, you know, I watched Judge Jeanine's show this morning as I was getting ready and in the car. And her whole show,
I hope she wasn't driving,
was about, you know, she looked at Venezuela. And if you talk to people from Venezuela, if you talk to people from Cuba, they said, we saw all of this before. This is, as you said, getting people dependent on government, getting them used.
Yeah, and that's exactly what's going on. This whole democracy thing that's happening, this whole making of the sausage, this is exactly how Venezuela started. You know, with revolutions. This is just like the Bay of Pigs. This is like, okay, so Trump is Batista, and then Fidel Castro, that's Biden. And he's a vessel, and he's being pulled across the Gulf of Florida, and the communism there's the Bay of Pigs is in here, and it's warm up to about here.
to sort of like just the scraps off the government table. This is what we saw this whole pandemic year, getting people on what was essentially a pretest of a universal income. I think this is exactly where we're heading. Michael Waltz is 100% right about this. And when you add that with what we're doing with monetary policy, the inflation, everything that's happening, you see why people are buying Bitcoin. You see why people are getting concerned about where this country is going. And people are starting to think about.
That's why people are buying Bitcoin, because of universal basic income. That's right. That's why people have been buying Bitcoin, hoping that it would skyrocket in value and making millions. The motivation is not capitalistic there. There's no greed involved with buying stock and Bitcoin.
I'm sorry, maybe I'm crazy. I'm hearing people saying, I don't want to be like the Cubans who, waited too long to figure out what was happening. I mean, this thing is,
Again, there was a revolution. You had one form of government, it was overthrown. I want to say 52 years ago, I want to say it was like 69 that had 68, 69. Somebody can, I should know. I know. I'm an idiot because I don't know the year. Oh my God, he said it was 1917 and the flu didn't start till 1918. That's a different example. But the Cuban Revolution, 68 or 69. I want to say 69, the Bay of Pigs, 69, 71. It was all, I don't know. I'm old. Basically, as long as I've been alive. The point is, there was no vote for the Cuban Revolution.
Heading down a socialist.
She's probably talking about Kenya. You're absolutely right, Marcy.
Path, and I'm not sure if there's enough of us who see it to stop it. Maybe we could halt it a little bit in the mid.
Bay of Pigs was 62, 58. Thank you.
Term elections, but there's a whole generation of young kids who just
because JFK, of course. I'm thinking Vietnam at this point.
Aren't afraid of socialism, have no idea what it means, and I think are gonna be our leaders.
This is what happens when you get older, kids. If you're younger than myself, as you get older, suddenly like everything in my life happened in the 80s. It could have been a song from 2004, and I'd say like, I think that was high school, 87, 86 or 87.
Well,
here's the thing. As far as I'm concerned, Cuba has been communist since 1969 because I was born in 1969.
Of who sees it and who has noticed the divide, who has noticed that this isn't the moderate deal-making president that we thought it might be answered when you start looking at popular culture, when you look at mainstream media. Here is Saturday Night Live's cold open from last night.
You can watch that yourself. We can't watch it. Yeah, so now, even though Saturday Night Live has been making fun of the Trump administration for the last 4 years, now they're going to use the cold open of Saturday Night Live as a cultural touchstone.
Pretty good, still light. They've never actually taken
really
real swipes at Democrats.
No, there were some very serious swipes at the Democrats last night, particularly cinema.
It's made for real comedy. They tapped around it a little bit, but the record. Here's the thing: we're talking about Democrat disarray, and it's true at some level. But I think
at some level.
Crazy part is they're pretty good at closing ranks at the end of the day, even with 50 votes.
Yeah.
And I think they know their goose is cooked because of what's happened in the last 8-9 months. And they recognize they think this bill, which they got some Republicans to vote for on the infrastructure side, and the other one with the promises they can make people, even if there's health care for illegals, and they'll say, well, we're doing it because we're more compassionate. They'll find a way to close ranks. And that's the scary part for.
It's not scary. That's how good. So, okay. So what you've just said is that everything up until this point that you've been talking about on the show is just sound and fury. It's all just pith. Yeah, you're right, buddy. Pete's right. I think that's Pete Hegseth.
a lot of us, is the Republicans don't have any votes to stop it, no mechanism to stop it.
Yep.
It's really Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin. And ultimately, if it comes down to 1.9 or 2.1, they're going to get the programs in. Maybe they'll bring them down to 2-year sunset instead of 4-year sunset to make it look like it's less expensive.
The tricks.
But it's all tricks. It's all tricks to get it in. And then they get it passed, and then they dare Republicans to undo it, which Republicans have been terrible at doing.
Can I just make one last point about infrastructure? I believe, and I've said this before to both of you, I think the biggest mistake that Donald Trump ever made was not following his gut instinct. When he first got into office, he wanted to do infrastructure. He was the right person to do infrastructure. He understood infrastructure.
No, he wasn't. In 4 years of Trump, we never had even a committee hearing on actual infrastructure. Ever. There was no infrastructure. All he wanted to do was cut regulations. That, to him, was infrastructure. Cut regulations, and the market will just naturally sort itself out. Guess what? It never did. There was, we need to cut regulations, and then everything, and the economy. We had a manufacturing contraction under Trump. Trump is the only president, since we started keeping track of jobs, to lose jobs during a presidency. And that wasn't just completely because of COVID. He slowed job growth as time went on during his presidency, and he caused a manufacturing contraction. Remember, I'm going to bring back jobs. I'm going to bring back American jobs. Things are going to be made here in America. They're going to be better. They're going to be the best military things you could buy. Going to rebuild the military. Manufacturing contraction. That happened under Trump. That was January. November, December, January 2019, 2020. I believe it was 1986 that this was all happening, by the way. This all happened while I was in high school.
He was going to reform the process for licensing and permitting. We were actually going to get roads. Remember, the people that are doing this, $3.5 trillion human and whatever infrastructure, these people are the same people that put together the stimulus package that, created no roads.
Human and whatever infrastructure. They're gonna build bridges, but you know what? They're also going to build the little steps for small dogs so they can get onto tall beds. There's $437 billion for the socialism of the dogs. And what did the Russians have? Dogs.
Roads, no.
You know who liked dogs? Hitler.
Bridges, nothing. It was like, remember those shovel-ready jobs? Nothing happened.
And shovels for burying their poop in the backyard. It never happened. What is she even talking about? The shovel-ready jobs. That was Trump.
So again, that was with $800 billion, almost $1 trillion. Now they have, potential.
And it all has to be union jobs, too.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing is going to get done with this, and we missed an opportunity. That whoever were those establishment Republicans who discouraged Trump from doing infrastructure and told him to do health care first, shame on you, because now the wrong party is doing it.
So your prediction is that...
So they never did infrastructure, and then health care failed. Trump failed to reform health care because there was no plan, and that's all that McCain wanted. It's like, let's just do this in the regular way, show me the new plan, and I'll vote for it. There was never a Republican health care plan. Regardless of how many times, 2 weeks never happened.
The $3.5 trillion spending bill will work its way through the Senate, through the reconciliation package, that Sinema and Manchin will jump on board. It may not be called a $3.5 trillion package. It may be called a $2 trillion package, but it'll be filled with...
2.2 is my prediction that no one cares about. Could be 1.8. I have no idea. Come on. When you're dealing with that much money, it's ridiculous numbers. 19 Republicans voted for the original infrastructure package, the small deal. 19. It's pretty good. That's a bipartisan deal. And these people are all ragging on it. She's just against it. Just against building bridges for Americans, and then is complaining that we didn't build bridges for Americans. That Trump made a mistake by not going with his gut. Trump's gut says nothing but build bridges. Okay, go.
with tricks, is your estimation?
Unfortunately,
That's
I
what
think
your
so.
prediction
That's
is.
what my prediction is. I think it's their one lifeboat they have right now. I don't want it to be. It scares the heck out of me.
Scares me
Look
too.
at the tax increases. You look at what's going to happen with inflation.
For you, because you make a lot of money. But for the average American, no, we're good.
It's a terrible piece of legislation.
And it's not fair to
Before
our
that
kids.
happens, Joe Biden or someone in that Democratic Party is going to have to figure out how to make a deal work within that party. That's what has.
Yeah. That's what has to happen, and that's what will happen. Again, he gave us the exact time, 2:27 a.m. on December.
To happen. They haven't figured out how to do that yet. By the way, speaking of infrastructure, yesterday we had an interview here on Fox and Friends. We talked to the Texas Military Department about their willingness to put up a fence along the southern border of the United States because of the expectation of another wave of Haitian immigrants. Some estimates are this one could be the size of 80,000 people making their way north. This is what Texas Governor Greg Abbott had to say. He said the Texas National Guard is gearing up at the border for increased caravans attempting to cross the border caused by Biden's border policy. They are working with the Texas Department of Public Safety to seal surge locations at the border and arrest trespassers.
Okay.
Now that is what Texas is doing to prepare for what estimates are a major new wave of Haitian migrants making their way north.
Yeah, remember there was an infrastructure project at the border. It was called the Wall, and Joe Biden stopped that. Americans lost jobs.
Technically, that's not infrastructure, because that's on the exterior of the country, okay? So no, not infrastructure. Intra, inter, they're all different.
And now we see that the Border Patrol could have used that help with the Wall, with this surge.
You could like walk around, it'd take you like 10 minutes to get to the end of this right here. But this is how the border wall is, all the way along. There's some wall and then it just kind of stops because you need to have a thorough way right there. And this is, by the way, this is not the border. This is, the border is the river. This is nowhere near the river. Now, in terms of the Earth as a whole, if you take a look at the solar system, it's right next to the river.
The LA Times interviewed Manfredo Marroquin, an anti-corruption activist in Guatemala. Here's what he says. He says, though frustrated that conditions have worsened since Harris visited, he wants more, not less, U.S. engagement. He drew a contrast with the Biden administration's messy exit from Afghanistan, noting Americans can afford to look away from a country on the other side of the globe, but if they ignore a nearby one, he said, you will have 1 million people at the border.
We already have that.
And Pete, I would say that, you know, as Kamala Harris said, she wanted to look at root causes and not actually seal our border or lift the morale and help out the Border Patrol. One of the root causes of people migrating, maybe not the Haitians, but certainly the Central Americans, is the violence and the strength of the cartels and the living conditions that the cartels have created in so many of these countries in Central America and also in Mexico. They're richer now. They've never been stronger. They've never been more powerful. And we're actually helping them with the last leg of their human trafficking money-making scheme by flying them with our tax dollars across the country.
Of course. And this quote from this activist in Guatemala.
But those are people who have a legal claim to asylum. Those are people legally within this country. And those are people that we need to take up those low-wage jobs. They're hurting the American economy by not being here.
This was one of the countries that Kamala Harris was supposed to address the root causes on.
Right.
And they're frustrated that conditions have worsened. Your point is true. Many of the Haitians who came in that first caravan and will come in future ones have lived in Central or South America for years.
Right.
Now they're saying the border's open, the signal's clear. I'm going to drop my identification at the border and become a so-called refugee and illegal in the United States of America because the signal is still clear. We're not.
Refugees are not illegal. You just contradicted yourself in the same sentence.
We're not talking 80,000, and
That's
you
just
know
the
that.
Haitians.
That's just the Haitians.
Yeah.
We're talking, I've heard numbers, 300,000, 400,000.
Yeah, we tried this whole caravan thing before the midterms in 2018, and it backfired in a big way. Do you know why? Because most Americans, we just don't care about the immigration problem. What we care about is when we go to our restaurant to sit down and eat, and oh, sorry, we don't have enough staff. Yeah, it's going to take a while because the cooks, like half the cooks are not here anymore.
Upwards of...
What we care about is, hey, I need a new house. There's a housing crisis in America right now. That affects Americans because there's no houses available on the market because we don't have the labor to build the houses. Along with the fact that some materials are in a shortage, etc. It's a complicated problem. This is not just black and white. This is not just, oh, immigrants, evil.
A million people that still...
But I guess, you know, the television shows that actually have, oh, let's take a deep dive into why this is happening. Let's really get into the housing crisis. Nobody watches those shows because they don't exist.
Know that the border is wide open, and I see those pictures from Texas. It's heartening. I hope they have the police powers to actually do what they want to do, because ultimately
they do not.
Border Patrol.
Can Texas do that? Do they have the
Okay, there's not all three of them are like, we don't really know.
Infrastructure.
So let's turn to Will and ask Will, because he knows.
Texas is not meant to secure the national border. That's a job for the federal government.
Yeah.
Right.
Can they solve a problem the federal government is unwilling to do?
They cannot.
It would be, honestly, a first to see essentially a state step up and have to handle what is...
Yeah, but by the way, that's what's going on in Britain right now. That's a wonderful point, Andy. Britain had themselves a little bit of a Brexit, and they said, we're not part of the EU anymore. Screw you guys. And what happened was a mass migration out of Britain because they made it tremendously difficult for immigrants to be in Britain. And now they have plenty of gas. There's no gas shortage in Britain, but they have nobody to drive the trucks to deliver the gas around the country. So there are gas lines in Britain right now. It's not just gas. There are a number of different shortages. So now they're like, okay, we need to have these emergency visas to bring people back into the country so that they can drive the trucks and harvest the chickens, etc. They may not have enough turkeys. There's a shortage of workers in the poultry industry in England. So for Christmas, they may not get their Christmas turkey. Merry Christmas. God bless us, everyone. Why? Because of Brexit. Because of isolationist viewpoints. Because of jingoistic, xenophobic actions by a slim majority of the British people. That's what happens.
Dictated in the Constitution, a power
There are 20 to 40 ships sitting off. Am I even pointing in the right direction? I am. That's south over there. Right off the coast here in Los Angeles, Long Beach, San Pedro, there are ships just sitting out there full of containers of products for Americans that we just don't have the labor to take care of right now.
Directed to the federal government. Real quick,
Yeah.
The word you use, and it's just so important, signal.
Yeah.
We can't solve the problems of Central America. We can't solve the cartel problem. We can't solve the poverty problem. We can't solve other people's problems. But what we can do is stop sending a signal that by running to the United States, you will solve your individual problems. That's
We're not sending that signal. That's America.
We have a legal immigration process. We have a legal refugee process.
Are we? So what? We should buy ads now in Honduras that says America sucks.
We have a legal process for all of those things. But to see millions, potentially, of people show up at our border, we have sent the wrong signal.
It's by design. It's by design, Will. And by the way, the president brought up fairness in his...
Right? You guys didn't start the broadcast by playing America the Beautiful and showing what an awesome place this is and we're the greatest country that's ever existed. You guys didn't do that? Let's just go back and check. It was the Star Spangled or the America the Beautiful or God Bless Freedom. What did they play? We can only play a second of this. Here we go. Here's the flag. It looks like the New York Harbor. It's Star Spangled. I can name that anthem in 3 notes. So, yeah. Look at how awesome America is. Don't come here. I think that's the same building that was used in the Imagine Dragons video. Thunder? Or perhaps Believer? Believer. We'll look it up. We'll check it out. I have to get going, kids. The day's starting. It's Sunday. Thanks for joining me here today. Yeah, it was only meant for Americans to hear. It's true. That broadcast. So we need to stop sending out the signal that America is a melting pot. Whoever came up with that was an idiot. Now, I have to go wait in line for gas so that I can go to Costco and not get toilet paper. Why doesn't anybody want to work for $7 an hour anymore? All right, kids, have yourself a great day. Thanks for joining me. Charity's all done. Screw the charity. If you didn't get a chance, you know what? I think everybody in here has already donated. So thank you very much, everybody. Have yourself a wonderful day. We'll spill COVFEFE another time. Right now, I got to run and do some stuff. And then there's hockey. And then there's more stuff. And then I'm hungry. There's no chicken, though. Everybody's out of chicken. Bye, Stephanie. Bye, Randa. Bye, Marcy. Bye, Andy. Bye, anybody else who's in here. Be good to yourself. Be good to others. And most importantly, be good to me.